nearly 7:20, but I don't know, we are waiting for them or we start the class.
Okay, so this is the first time you attend the class, or how's
No,
for you? Because
I'm your oldest student. Since long time I'm in the class, but I don't know, I've not participated in much on like the writing some sentence or so on. I'm all the time I'm present in the class, but I don't know why you are not familiar with my name.
because I think last class I have only one student, Mr. Milway. The last class also I start my classes only with one student. Again, Mr. Milway. Maybe for last 2 weeks you didn't attend, but
Yes, in the last 2 weeks I was not, but in the previous classes I was.
all right. Okay. All right. How's your topic? Can you choose your topic or no?
Still, I haven't chosen, but I'm busy with some stuff, and maybe I will choose some topics. Yes.
So do you know which area do you want to have a research?
I will choose a research in public finance because I'm working in public finance issues in my country.
All right. So it means that the area of your research will be in finance, yes?
In public finance and budgeting.
All right. Budgeting and finance. All right. So, Mr. Ismail Ahadi, it's good that you should know that for this area, I cannot be your supervisor. All right. So from the first, you should check everything with your lecturer of finance lecturer.
Yes, of course. And also I will choose another topic for this subjects from the other lists either. Yes, thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, so you attend the classes, research methodology class, all the classes you should attend. And then, but for your final research, I can be your co-supervisor, but the main supervisor should be the lecturer in field of in field of finance and budgeting. Okay.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. I will do. Thank you.
All right, thank you. But about the whole concept about your research, about how you want to choose the topic and finalize the concept and the body of your research, I can help you. But about the details, you should check with finance lecturer. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for your assistance and your kindness. Thank you, ma'am.
All right, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Right now, Midwife Ahmada is also attending in the class. I think we will start the class.
All right, all right. Now I will start. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am.
So can you see the slide? All right. So if you have any question from last session and about a previous lesson that I taught you, you can ask me now. If no, we can start today's class. All right. So I think it's good if we start the class. So today is our seventh session. Last class, do you know what we talked about, Mr. Mewes, last class? Can you tell me? All right. Can you talk? Hello, Mr. Mewes. Mr. Mewes, can you hear me? All right, maybe Mr. Mewes have some problem with his microphone. All right, no problem. So because Mr. Ismail Ahadi didn't attend the last class, so shortly I will explain about the last class. So last class we talked about sampling, how many methods of sampling exist in the research methodology. And for two lessons, for the last two sessions, I talked about research design. And today I want to talk about data collection. So as we have a discussion, the first chapter we talk about the research question and research objective and problem statement. Then we talked about the chapter 2, literature review, how you should write about literature review, all right? Now we go to chapter 3, meaning methodology. So for methodology part or chapter, you need to know about the conceptual framework, you need about the research design, research choices, okay, and sampling, and data collection, and finally data analysis. So for today, we talk about data collection. So I think today is very important because data collection is one of the most important parts in your research. Because all the things that you want to have a conclude in your research based on your data collection. Yes, Mr. Mewes, I received your research objective and research question, and also I sent it back to you by last night with my comments, so you can review it. And we will talk about your topic at the end of the class after finishing the presentation. All right, so for today, we want to talk about data collection definition, accurate and appropriate data collection, integrity of data collection, importance of data collection, means why we should do data collection in our research, and quantitative data collection method and qualitative data collection method. As you remember, we have two main methodology for our research, the qualitative method and the quantitative. So for each of these methods, we use a specific sampling and data collection, all right? So it depends on your research that which of these approach you use and you want to choose for your research. So based on this, you can decide for different method of data collection and also sampling. That about different method of sampling. Last class we talk about it, and today for data collection. So about data collection definition, we can say that data collection is a process. So it's very important that you should know that it's a process, all right? It's a process of gathering and measuring information on variable of interest in an established systematic question that enables one to answer. So first point is process, then gathering, then measuring information, and this information is divided to variable, dependent variable in your research and independent variable in your research. And it should be systematic as well, okay? So when you do the data collection enable you to state a research question to test your hypothesis and evaluate outcomes. So about evaluate outcomes, we can say that evaluate outcomes that can be in your data analysis that I will explain in next class. All right. So when you are doing your data collection, you should think about how you want to state your research question and how you want to test the hypothesis. Data collection enable you to do these two important things: state hypotheses and state a research question. Importance of ensuring accurate and appropriate data collection. Correct use reduce the likelihood of errors occurring. So this is very important that you be in a right way for your data collection, because if you have an accurate, appropriate and proper way to do the data collection, meaning that you will have exact and right conclusion, data analysis, or a suggestion, recommendation. Everything will be done good. But if your data collection not be accurate and not be appropriate, so everything after that happen in right way. So this is very important. So correct use reduce the likelihood of error, and consequences from improperly collected data include inability to answer research questions. So if you don't have a data collection, right data collection, you cannot be able to answer research questions. You cannot be able to repeat and validate the study, and distorted findings result in wasted resource. So this is the three main reasons that push the researchers to do the data collection right. And think about the accurate and appropriate data collection. So issues related to maintaining integrity of data collection. Two approaches that can preserve data integrity and ensure the scientific validity of the study results. So if you want to have an integrity of data collection, you should think about the quality assurance and quality control, and each approach is implemented at different points. Okay, so for quality assurance means the activity that takes place before data collection begins, and quality control means activities that take place during and after data collection. So when you are in the step of data collection, you should be sure that everything done before every activity that take place or happen before data collection should be fine, should be correct, and then that means quality assurance. And everything and every activity that takes place and happen during the data collection or after that should be fine as well again. All right, it means quality control. So by these two things, you can be sure that data collection will be fine. So importance of data collection. Inaccurate data collection can impact the result of the study and ultimately lead to the invalid result. So again, I want to tell you that inaccurate data collection guides you to have invalid result, meaning nothing. When you don't have a valid result in your research, meaning that your research doesn't have any point. All right. And data collection methods for impact evaluation vary along a continuum: quantitative method and qualitative method. So as you talk about two different approaches, qualitative and quantitative, so now for each of them we have different way of data collection. But Sami, do you want to ask me something? Because your microphone on and off. All right. Okay. So for quantitative data collection method, So if you choose the qualitative data collection in your research, there are these methods that I mentioned in this slide. Rely on random sampling and structured data collection instruments that fit diverse experience into predetermined response categories. So about sampling, we talked it in last class. So for qualitative data collection, you can use random sampling and structured data, and produce results that are easy to summarize, compare, and generalize. And is concerned with testing hypotheses derived from theory and being able to estimate the size of phenomena of interest. So if you have a qualitative data collection, you should testing your hypothesis that these hypotheses come from your theory, all right? And depending on the research question, participants may be randomly assigned to different treatments. So if this is not feasible, the researcher may collect data on participant and situational characteristics in order to specifically control for the influence on the dependent or outcome variable. So if the intent is to generalize from the research participant to a large population, the researcher will employ probability sampling to select participants. So as you see in this slide suggests us that if we want to do quantitative data collection, the first thing that we should do the random sampling and structured data. The other thing that we should test our hypotheses, that these hypotheses come from our theory, and then estimate the size of phenomena. And then if we want we have this aim that by this research we generalize from the research of participants to a larger population, then we can also employ probability sampling. About the probability and non-probability sampling, we discussed in last class, all right? So just remember that if you want to do quantitative data collection, you can employ probability sampling. Oh my God. I will wait. Cannot go to next slide. Now. So, typical quantitative data gathering strategy: experiment, observing and recording well-defined events, and obtaining relevant data from management information system and administrating survey with closed-ended questions. Or, for example, a face-to-face and telephone interview. So, for interview is one of the methods for collecting the data, alright? So in quantitative research, survey research, interviews are more structured than in qualitative research. So if you have a quantitative and you want to do the interview because of the data collection, so your interview should be more structured. But in qualitative research, if you want to do a qualitative research and you choose the interview for method of data collection, so it doesn't need to have a structured one, all right? In a structured interview, the researcher asks a standard set of questions and nothing more, all right? So what does it mean when we say a structured interview? Well, we say in quantitative research we need to have a structured interview. It means that our interview should have a standard set of questions, and we don't talk about anything else, only a follow-up the standard set of questions for everyone that we choose for interview, right? The other way for interview is face-to-face interview that have a distinct advantage of enabling the researcher to establish a rapport with potential participants and therefore gain their cooperation. So when you have a face-to-face interview, you can get at this point, you have an advantage of this that when you talk to the interviewee, so if you think that by your question you cannot get the answer, and then you can suddenly change the question, and then you can use from the potential of knowledge that exists in your interviewee. So this is the point for face-to-face interview. These interviews yield highest response rate in survey research, also allow the research to clarify ambiguous answer and when appropriate follow information that I mentioned before. But also face-to-face interview has its advantage as well, and it is include in practical when large samples are involved, time-consuming and expensive. So you can have a face-to-face interview for example, maybe master degree, because your population of your data collection is not too many. So you can go and see one by one interviewing, all right? But when you have a very large population, your research is too big, so you cannot use this method because it's very expensive and it needs lots of time that you go and see one by one. So it depends on the sample, and yeah, of course, face-to-face interview need more time and money. So it depends on your scope of your research, alright, and how much is it big, and how many people you want to interview with them. Depends on your research. For some research, you can use a face-to-face, but for most of the research, face-to-face interview is very difficult. The other way of interview is telephone interview, alright? Telephone interview are less time-consuming, less expensive, and the researcher has ready access to anyone on the planet who has a telephone. So this is very easy to understand that how the telephone interview make everything easy because you can ask a question via telephone from everyone. It means every people live in the planet that has a telephone, no other thing. But also it has a disadvantages that the response rate is not as high as the face-to-face interview, but considerably higher than the main questionnaire. The sample may be biased to the extent that people without phones are part of the population about whom the researcher wants to draw reference. Okay? Concludingly, we can say telephone interview is good because it's less time-consuming, less expensive, and every person got telephone you can contact her or him, alright? But also has another two main disadvantages. The first one that when you go to see someone, when you make an appointment and want to do face-to-face interview, the person, the interviewee, must attend the interview and answer your question. But by telephone, maybe the interviewee doesn't answer or say, I'm not available, I'm busy, or something like this, and then you cannot contact him or her. The other disadvantage is that if there is some good interviewee for your research, but this person doesn't have telephone or cannot contact with you by telephone, so it means that you lost this possibility to have an interview with this person. So two disadvantages and one advantage. So all of these methods depending on your situation, depending on your research, alright? And we cannot say that which of them is best way or which of them is worse. It depends on your research situation, data collection, and everything. But I mentioned all of them. Then you are the person and the researcher who will choose which of them is more proper for your research. Alright, Mr. Mewis asked me about questionnaire interviews. What do you mean exactly questionnaire interviews? Hello, Mr. Mewis. Can you, or you cannot, I think. Okay, Mr. Mewis, let me. All right, I guess that you cannot talk with your microphone. All right, let me finish this slide because today I will explain about all type of interviews. For example, face-to-face, telephone interview, and all the other type of interviews. And also I will explain about the questionnaire. All right. So at the end of the presentation, all right. So if you have still you have a question, then you can write, and then I will answer you. Just mention in the chat box. But I think most of the things I cover in the presentation. So just be patient and wait. Maybe you can get your answer. Thank you. So computer-assisted personal interviewing. This is another method for interviewing. It's a form of personal interviewing, but instead of completing questionnaire, the interviewer brings along a laptop or handheld computer to enter the information directly to the database. All right. This method saves time involved in processing the data, as well as saving the interviewer from carrying around hundreds of questionnaires. However, this type of data collection method can be expensive to set up and requires that interviewers have computer and typing skills. So this is another method of interviewee, that if you think that your interviewee has high ability to answer your question, he's a professional, he knows how to work with computer, he knows typing skill, he has a laptop and everything fine. So so this is the good method for using data collection, because you have a database, and then your interviewee can directly answer your question database and everything done. No need to record, and then after finish interview again to listen to record and write everything. And somehow you cannot understand what does she or he say in the record. So by this way you don't face this problem. But it depends on the interviewee that does she or does he is ability to typing skill, and for example, knows how to work with computer, has a laptop or no, all of them is available. So this method is very good. So finally, we can divide interview types from 6 to 3 parts: structure, semi-structure, and unstructured. A structure means that uses a pre-established question as in predetermined order using a standard mode of delivery, meaning that you have a specific question. Semi-structure, as the name suggests, that these interviews are neither fully fixed nor fully free. So it's very clear that you are not fully fixed nor fully free, and are perhaps best seen as flexible. So by semi-structure, you have more flexibility than a structure one, right? An unstructured attempt to draw out information, attitude, opinion, and beliefs around particular ideas and issues without the aid of a determined question. So this is that means fully free. You can ask everything and attempt to draw out information, attitude, opinion. All of them can enter in your interview. Also, the other classification that we can do for interview types, we can say that interviews also vary in their level of formality. We have formal interview and informal interview. For formal interview, it's just that formal. Perhaps the best analogy is the classic job interview that includes the office setting, the formal handshake, appropriate attitude and structure, and best professional behavior. So one of the examples for formal interview is job interview. Informal is an information interview attempt to ignore the rules and roles associated with interviewing in an attempt to establish rapport, gain trust, and create a more natural environment conducive to open and honest communication. So sometimes maybe the researchers think that in informal way they can get a better data collection. So again, it depends on researcher and the situation. Also, we can say that we can have an interview one by one or in a group. One-on-one, most interviews are in interaction between the interviewer and a single interviewee. So when you have a one-on-one interview, meaning face-to-face maybe, or maybe telephone interview, all of them can access with one-on-one. Maybe one interviewee and one interviewer. Alright? So it is thought that one-on-one allows the researcher control over the process and the interviewees the freedom to express their thoughts. Also, we have group interview. So for group interviews involve interviewing more than one person at a time. This can be done in a formal and structured way or may involve a less structured process where the researcher acts more as a moderator or facilitator than an interviewer. So when you have a group interviewee, you cannot expect that you can have a structured interviewee. Most of the time, in group interviewee, you have less structure or you have unstructured interviewee. Why? Because you have a role of moderator, facilitator. So not everything be in a specific thing. So you cannot have a structured interview. Conducting an interview that can generate relevant and credible data requires thorough planning, consider preparation of interview schedule and recording system, sufficient piloting, reflexive modification, the actual interview, and appropriate analysis. So when you want to do the interview, you want to conduct an interview, you should consider this item, alright? You should have a plan, you should have pilot, you should have appropriate analysis. All of them, if you consider, then you can get to the right and useful interview. It means that you can have a good data collection from your interview. Also, for conducting an interview, two important considerations interviewing are presentation of self, and the other thing is a preliminary. So you as the interviewer, as a researcher who wants to be an interviewer, first you should present yourself, and then you should pay attention to preliminary. For example, be on time. When you have an appointment, you should be on time. Set up and check equipment, record equipment, everything you should check before. Establish rapport, introduce the study, and explain ethics. all right? So you as an interviewer should first give some background and introduction about your research, and say that how is the role of ethics in your research, and exactly what you want from your interviewee, and be on time and everything checked before if you want to have a good interview. But sometimes we think that we cannot do interview in any of these methods that I mentioned. We cannot have a face-to-face interview, we cannot have a telephone interview, one-by-one group interview. None of them can access. Or you think that if you use the questionnaire process, it's better. So at this point, you should think about listen more than talk. This is the next slide. Our questionnaire is here. Alright, before we go to the questionnaire, there are another two slides regarding to interview. The first one, the questioning process. Listen more than talking. The main game in interviewing is to facilitate an interviewee's ability to answer. This involves that easing the respondent into the interviewee, asking a strategic question, prompting and probing appropriately, keeping it moving, being true to your role, and bending down when the time is right. So when you become an interviewee, you should think about more listen than talk, and easy responded into the interview. You can ask them a strategic question. You should manage the time, and you should ask some questions that can come from the answer of the question, come to the research your question, and come to the data that you needed. Recording responses. Recording responses can be done in a number of ways. You may need to trial a couple of recording methods in order to assess what is best for you. The first one, note-taking. This can range from highly structured to open and interpretive, audio recording, and videotaping. So for interview, the most important part of interview is recording, all right? So for recording process, you can use three methods: note-taking, audio recording, or videotaping. It depends on your personality and the personality of your interview. That which of these way is more useful for your recording. Mr. Murray mentioned about that we should know about the culture of the people. Yes, culture of the people, because people as an interviewee, as a respondent of your interview, so it's very important that you know about the personal, about the culture, about the rules of that organization. For example, if you want to see the manager or CEO of the organization, so if you got enough information about the personality, the environment of the organization, culture of the people, so you can understand that which method of this interview is more useful, and then you can understand that which method will be more useful for you. So of course this is an important point. So another way of collecting data after interviewee, the other one is questionnaires, paper pencil questionnaires. So it can be sent to a large number of people and save the researcher time and money. So this is the advantages of paper pencil questionnaires, all right? Because you can spread out to many people. People are more truthful while responding to the questionnaires regarding controversial issues, in particular due to the fact that their responses are anonymous, alright? But they also have drawbacks. Majority of the people who receive questionnaires don't return them, and those who do not might not be responsive of the originally selected sample. Alright. So for questionnaire, as an advantage, we can say that you can save your money, of course, save your time, and you can spread out your questionnaire to many people. So it means that you sample when you want to choose a questionnaire method for collecting the data. So your sample can be wide because the respondent can be too many. But of course, has a disadvantage, and the most disadvantage of that is that none of the maybe most of the time. Okay, let's say like this. Most of the time, when you spread out the questionnaire, so you cannot receive the answer because many people when receive the questionnaire just put it in the table or drawers or something like this and ignore it and doesn't answer, right? But for interview, when you have an appointment and go and see there, so they cannot ignore you, alright? They cannot ignore your question. But questionnaires, for questionnaires, you should be very patient. Many times, maybe you should spread out your questionnaires, and time that you want to collect the data from the questionnaire is very too long, alright? Maybe you spread out the questionnaire 1 month, but when you want to receive the answer of the questionnaire, maybe you should wait for 2 months or 3 months. Whenever they will free, they will fill up your form, alright? But when you go to interview and see them, so you have a schedule. It means that at that time you have interview, at that time you have a result, and you can answer, you can have answer of the question. So it depends on your nature of your research and the situation. You can use this method, alright? Each of them has some advantages and disadvantages. So, alright, for questionnaire, also we have some type of questionnaires. One of them is web-based questionnaires. A new and innovatively growing methodology is the use of internet-based research, because nowadays everyone access to internet. So this is the good way that you can collect the data from web-based questionnaires. With receiving an email on which you would click on an address that would take you to secure website to fill in a questionnaire. This type of research is often quicker and less detailed. Some disadvantages of this method include the exclusion of people who do not have a computer or are unable to access a computer. Also, the validity of such survey are in question, as people might be in a hurried facilities who might not give accurate response. Questionnaires often make use of checklists and rating scales. These devices help simplify and quantify people's behavior and attitude. Okay, so this method, so when you have a web-based questionnaire, again, same as the other method, you have some advantages and some disadvantages. The advantage is that it is a new method, it is growing methodology. You can access to many people because they use internet. And nowadays everyone got email address, alright? So you can just email your questionnaire and then ask them to answer your questionnaire and send you back by email, alright? So this is very good, but also disadvantages. The first one is very clear. People who don't access to internet, or people who doesn't have any email address, cannot attend your questionnaire. Maybe they are very good response for your research, but because they don't access internet and so they omit it, alright? The other disadvantage is that for web-based questionnaires, you should have a particular and specified and structured questionnaire, so you cannot add or delete something. The people who receive your questionnaire via email, they just answer the question that you put in the email. So this is another disadvantage. And the other disadvantage also that for myself many times happen because, for example, they are my classmates and they send me their questionnaire via email. So I want to help them, so I answer the question, alright? But sometimes then after I fill up the form and send again, I go back to see the questionnaire, say, okay, I cannot get the main point and idea of the question, and I answer the question right, alright? Because when people answer your question via email, alright, they are in rush. They want finish the questionnaire, fill up the form, and then just send back to you. They don't be patient. They don't be careful. They don't pay too much attention to your question. So many times this happens. So maybe by this method, the based questionnaires, you cannot access very accurate and very proper results, alright? So because sometimes the people are tired or something like this, or doesn't get your idea, so they answer the right way, so meaning that you cannot get the right result. But for example, when you have an interview face-to-face, okay? When you have an interview face-to-face, you explain your whole idea exactly for interviewing. An interviewee concentrate on your question because this time only for you and the interviewee, and you are here for just answer the question. So the interviewee most of the time answer your question right, alright? So these are the differences between different methods of data collection. Of course, in some countries, because lack of internet access, so you cannot use this method. Maybe as the Middle nation, in Afghanistan, also people maybe have a problem to access the internet and these facilities. So maybe you cannot use web-based questionnaire. Right, it's correct. Yeah, it depends on the situation of the country and the respondent. So for web-based questionnaires, a checklist is a list of behaviors, characteristics, or other entities that the researcher is looking for. Either the researcher or survey participants simply check whether each item on the list is present or true or vice versa. Alright? A rating scale is more useful when a behavior needs to be evaluated on a continuum. They are also known as Likert scale. So Likert scale, you can read it. I mentioned the reference. So if you want to have a rating scale, you can read it because it's a different story. And I cannot put here in the slide. So always for question, whether by interviewing or questionnaire, there are some questions that you should avoid to ask them, alright? The first one is poorly worded question, means complex terms and language, ambiguous question, double negative, double varied question. because sometimes the question is very complicated. Double negative, finally I don't know, this is a negative or positive question, alright? So you should always think that the people who want to answer your question, this is the first time that they read your question. So you always should ask yourself that this question is suitable for person that this is the first time who reads it more clear or no. So poorly worded question, you should avoid from poorly worded question. The other question that you should avoid in your interview or questionnaire is the bias, leading, or loaded. Alright? Ring through a statement, hard to disagree with the statement, leading question. This is also very important because, of course, we do the research and we can expect about the results. But if we want to have a right research, we want to have a useful research that in academic area we can use it, you shouldn't put the question that push the people who want to answer the question, things that you think about it, that finally you come to your conclusion, to your idea, alright? So you shouldn't put the bias question, the leading question, alright? And the question that it's very hard to disagree with statement. I see the questionnaires that for example, for one question, the writer, the researcher, the first put two sentences, two complete sentences, and explain something, and at the end ask, okay, do you agree? So of course I say yes. It's not the good question because with lots of explanation you want to persuade, you know. So this is the bias question, and by this questionnaire you cannot go to the real result. Alright, this is the result that you want to achieve. But for researcher, this is not good ethics. Alright, so your question shouldn't be leading question or hard to disagree with the statement or a ring through statement. The other question that you should avoid is problematic for the respondent. For example, recall-dependent question, offensive question, questions with assumed knowledge, question with unwarranted assumption, question with socially desired responses. So this is another question that you should avoid, that we call it provocative question. So, response categories, sometimes I just check the chat box because I want to see whether is there any question or no, because of this some minutes I wait. So now, Mr. Mivet mentioned that checklist is the easiest way of questionnaires. Yeah, checklist is very good because when people see that fill up the form, answer your questionnaire, it takes only a few minutes, they are more eager to attend your questionnaire. But if they see that there are the question that they should explain about it, they should write, and at least they should read 4 items as A, B, C, D. And sometimes I see the questionnaire that they are A, B, C, D, E, F. So with 5 options. So these questions make less probability for respondent to answer the question. So checklist question is very easy and very good way, easiest way for push the people to answer it, because it takes only a few seconds. All right. So response categories. Survey question can either be open or closed. Open question, closed question. So if you have a survey, so you have a spread out the questionnaires, so you can have an open question or closed question. For open question, this question asks respondents to construct answers using their own words. Open question can generate rich and candid data, but it can be data that is difficult to code and analyze. And closed question force respondents to choose from a range of predetermined responses and are generally easy to code and statistically analyze. So it's very clear. It depends on your research and you and the situation that which one you want to use. So for qualitative data collection methods, qualitative data collection methods play an important role in PAC evaluation by providing information useful to understand the process behind observed results and assess changes in people's perception of their well-being. Furthermore, qualitative methods can be used to improve the quality of survey based on quantitative evaluation by helping generate evaluation hypotheses, exchanging the design of survey questionnaires and expanding or clarifying quantitative evaluation findings. So these are the items that can be clear about the quantitative data collection. Again, for qualitative data collection methods, these methods are characterized by following attributes. They tend to be open-ended and have less structure or protocols. Alright, for example, researcher may change the data collection strategy by adding, refining, or dropping techniques or informants. They rely more heavily on interactive interviews. Respondents may be interviewed several times to follow up on a particular issue, clarify concepts, or check the reliability of data. They use triangulation to increase the credibility of their findings. For example, researchers rely on multiple data collection methods check their results. And generally, their findings are not generalized to any specific population. So these are the things you should consider about data collection for qualitative methods. So things to consider regardless of kind of data involved. Data collection in a qualitative study takes a great deal of time. The researcher needs to record any potentially useful data thoroughly, accurately, and systematically using field notes, sketch, and photographs, and other suitable means. The data collection method must observe the ethical principles for research. The qualitative method must commonly used in evaluation classified by three broad categories: in-depth interview, observation method, and document review. So for qualitative, most of the time we do interview, and for quantitative we use questionnaire. So for interview, for quantitative, we need an in-depth interview, we have observation, and also document review. And this is the one slide that summarizes all the things that phases in the data collection process for both qualitative and quantitative research. The one picture. So, for example, if you have a sampling, you can do it in quantitative data collection and qualitative data collection, but the items may be a little bit different that I put in the slide. I think data collection, yes, the slides of data collection finish here. So if you have any question, you can ask me now. right. If you have any question, you can ask me now. If you don't have a question, so we can talk about your topic. Okay, for those who didn't attend the previous classes, so I sent all of the slides presentation via email to all the students, so you can have a look on the slides, alright, and if you have any question, then you can ask me via email, alright, and I will answer to you. And it's good if you read the slides every session, I mean session by session, and if you have a question, then ask, and then you can get the answer, and everything be clear, because at the end of the presentation, I mean at the end of the 8th session that I will present for you, then you should start to write your proposal, and if you don't be clear about the document and the slides that I sent to you, maybe you face some problem. So before you want to start to do your research, just have a look on the slides of each session and ask me your question. And of course, if I know your answer, I will help you. The other thing, all right. Okay, and the other thing that I want to tell you that you check your email, and maybe sometimes some students didn't receive my email, didn't receive my slides of presentation. So just inform me, and I can forward to you again, because this is your class, so you have this right that you can archive all these slides for yourself for future that you want to read about research methodology again. So every session, check that you receive the slides, alright? And another thing that regarding to the copyright regulation, so I ask you that don't send and don't give this slide to others, because this right for WWS, I try to match many references and resources together and create my slides, alright, and then because I want to send you the slides, if I copy the slides from one book only, I cannot give it to you regarding to the right regulation of that book. But I want that my students can access my slides, can have the slides of session for future and for the personal, alright. So because of this reason, I spend lots of time to mix many sources and create the new slides, alright, that I can say, okay, this slide is belong to me only, and then I can share with my students. But all of this right is under WWS, so you can only share with your classmates. Thank you. Alright, regarding to your topic, up to now I received Mr. Miwei's topic. It is really good. He chose solid waste management of coupled physics, if I'm not mistaken. So for the rest of you, Mr. Ismail Ahadi told me that he wants to do the research in area of finance and budgeting. It's very good also. And for Mr. Nurzai, I didn't get any topic. So Mr. Nurzai, do you have any idea about your topic? Yes, Mr. Mives, I know that Mr. Nurzai is in class, so I want to ask him that, oh, not yet. All right. Just for your information, as I explained to Mr. Ismail Ahadi, if your topic related to strategic management and business and sometimes in marketing also, I can be your supervisor, all right? But if you choose another field in management, for example, financing, or for example, accounting, or something, or for example, human resource, or something that's not in my area, so after that, you should talk with your lecturer of that area and arrange with him or with her for your research. All right. And I have this experience that for my student in last semester, 2 or 3 times I extend the deadline because they cannot finish their work. And I'm sure that many of them, after finish their research, just they send to me. They cannot check with other supervisors, other people, because they don't have time. So this is my suggestion to you, that especially for those who are who their research are not under my supervision, that they do their work in suitable time, all right, and you can finish it by deadline, that you have this opportunity to check with others as well. And don't rely only on me, because the research like this, if you want to have a good research, you can talk about your research to many people. I'm only a supervisor with limit knowledge. Every person has limit knowledge, all right? And every person maybe knows something that the other one doesn't know. So this is the good chance that now we are in WWS with lots of classmates, lots of people, lots of lecturers. So we can talk to each other. We can access our email. You know, we know that many emails that can contact each other. So from this opportunity, we should use it, all right? So I ask you to get the idea, get the suggestion from others as well. This is a good way to have best research. And of course, I will talk to WWS that the good research not finished at the end of the semester. I will do something for good research for publishing or for archive them or something that now I just have an idea and I should arrange with WWS because I don't want that my students just submit the assignment and everything finished by receiving MBA certificate. Okay, I think something more than this. So I ask you to submit a good research and give me this possibility to do more. All right? Thank you. All right. Now I'm checking the chat box and will answer your question one by one. The first one, Mr. Nurzai. It doesn't, okay, the past is past, alright? If you cannot attend the class before, no problem. We cannot do anything for that. And now we can do think about the future, alright? So the thing that you can do is that review the slides that I sent to you, and if you have any question, ask me, and no problem. By this way, you can contemplate the classes that you didn't attend. And then For Mr. Ismail Ahadi, it doesn't need to change your topic, Mr. Ahadi. You can do the topic that you like it, and you can access the data, and it's useful for you. So you can do the finance research, no problem. I will help you with the content, all right, the whole concept, and then the details of your research you can check with your finance lecturer, because last semester also I have a student who did their research in finance, so no problem. I can be only your co-supervisor, but the whole idea, the whole concept about the financing thing, you can check with your finance lecturer, but no need to change your topic, because always I ask a student to do the research in the areas that first they like them. First, the most important thing is the like of the topic, okay? The second point is you can access the data. Many times we like some subject, we like some topic, but we cannot collect the data. So it means that we cannot do that research. The third point is that the result of this research is useful for you. Maybe I can collect the data, I like the topic, but finally after I did after I wrote my research, from the result I cannot use it because this area is not related to me, to my job. So it means that this research is not suitable for me. So these 3 points that you should think about for your topic. The first one, that you should like the topic. The second one, you can collect the data. And the third one, you can use from the results. So because you say that you work in an area of the public finance and budgeting, so it means that you can use from this result of your research, and you can collect the data because you are familiar with this area. So you can do this topic, no matter that I am your supervisor or not. Okay? So my suggestion to you that you don't want to change your topic, but just arrange with another lecturer parallelly with me. Because for calculation part, for finance part, maybe I cannot give you good comment because it's not in my area. That's all. You can just check with another lecturer parallelly with me. But I will see your work, no problem. Alright, about the topic, Mr. Nurzai asked that I will give you or you should choose it. I think now you know your answer because I mentioned 3 points for choosing the topic. The first one, that you should like the topic. So it means that I cannot give you the topic because I don't know in which area you have interest, alright? So the topic should be interest for you as a researcher, alright? But if, for example, you have interest in some area, for example, you say that I want to do something in, for example, marketing area, something new, then I can give you some general topic in this area, and then again you should choose it, and then together we can finalize the topic, alright? By this way I can help you. But totally, the final topic one, I never give the student, because the student should find that in which area they have ability and interest. Alright, and the other thing that because my class is with Afghan students, alright, so last sem I have Turkish students So it's very good. Maybe I can ask from WWS that you can connect to last sem students and ask them about the topic. I don't want to see the duplicate research, all right? Because Afghanistan is only one country, all right? So all of the students do the researcher inside Afghanistan. All of them, my students from last semester, they do the research for Afghanistan, okay? It's very good because we should do something for our country. But please check with others that your topic don't be duplicated. Because the main idea of research means doing something new. If someone else did about it, it means you don't do the research. You do only submit the paper without any effect, without any point, all right? So me as a supervisor knows about the previous semester student topic, so I will tell you that this topic is new or not. But I'm not sure that my students from that sem are the first one that graduated from WWS or not. So I will check with them. And if there are also other students, so you should check with them your topic. You should see the other topic and you should choose a new one. This is very important. Maybe, I don't know, but maybe in Afghanistan there is a database or there's something that you can check your topic in the website, that is this a new topic or no? Is there anyone else who have done this research before or not? Because if someone else done your research, means that you should do from the next step, from something new. Okay. All right, I check with WWF. I think that the first group of students who graduate is a student from, I think, October intake. So for those, because I was their supervisor, so I know the topic. And when you send me your topic, I will tell you that it's new or not. But there is not only WWS in Afghanistan who propose, for example, MBA. Maybe other students, other researchers in other organizations also did their research. So I don't know how you can check with them that which research up to now done in Afghanistan and what can you do the new thing. Alright, yes, just you can check with university database. Yeah, that's good. Because another point for research is that, as I mentioned in my first session, when you don't publish your research, meaning that your research died, alright? So because of this reason, I want to create some database for your research, that after this, if someone wants to do some research in your area, can contact you. And you don't do many, research at the same topic. So this is very good if you can publish your research, if you can use from your result of your research in some place that record. And after that, people know that what they should do after this. What's the next step in that area, alright? So this is a good idea, I think, but it needs more support. So I will arrange I will talk to WWF about our students, WWF, how we can do something that don't do duplicated, alright? This is the thing that I can do. All right. So I will wait for the email from Mr. Ismail Ahadi for topic, and also I will wait for the mail about the topic for Mr. Nurzai. All right. And then I hope I receive your topic by this week. And for Mr. Meanways, you can check your email. I sent back the proposal by my comment. You can read, and if you have a question, you can ask me via email. All right. For next step, also I mentioned in my comments. I put the next step for you. And then another thing that you asked me chat box, yes, Mr. Nurzai, I sent today slides via email, I think last night. So if you check your email, you can see the slides of today. And if you didn't receive my email, just inform me that I forward to you again. So dear student, if you have any question, you can ask me now. If no, we can finish the class. All right, thank you so much for your attendance, and then I hope in this class we can have a good research together. We share our knowledge and experience. So don't hesitate to contact to me if you have any question regarding to your topic, previous slides, and I hope I can help you in this area to do your research very good. Thank you, have a nice time, and goodbye.